here's a little myofascial release for the upper back. The area between the shoulder blades, as well as a little bit onto the sides, the armpit area, and we'll get into the pecs as well. All you need is a foam roller. Optional, I've got a blanket with me just to pad up my hips for a brief moment that will be on the side of the hip there. To start, bring that foam roller behind you and lay down so the bottom tips of your shoulder blades-ish is laying on the foam roller. The hips will stay on the ground and the head will be supported by the hands. Let the head rest heavy here, no need to hold up the weight with the neck. And press the feet into the floor, lift the hips, and just use the feet to press a little bit forward and draw the hips towards the heels. So you're moving that foam roller up and down just a couple inches, exploring that space on the back of the shoulders, noticing the different textures and sensations as you go. And when you find an area that feels helpful, maybe it's a little bit tender or it provides a sense of relief, set those hips down and just make some little side bends here. This is called shearing. We're pinning the top layer of tissue down and then moving those deeper layers past it. Good, and we'll slow that down, just take a breath. Lift the hips, slide the hips down your mat towards your heels. Maybe you walk those feet out a little bit. And then do that same thing again, and now you're just kind of rolling that top half of the shoulder blade area. Go up and down a couple times, again exploring that sensation. Maybe you meet some road bumps or some interesting textures along the way. And when you find an area that again feels helpful, not necessarily the most intense, set those hips down and you're going to find that shearing again, little side bends, side to side. Good, and then we'll slow that shearing down and lay it just kind of right in the middle of the shoulder blades there. You're probably about in the right place as you are. And we're going to let the head continue to rest in those hands, but point the elbows towards the ceiling. And then take that left elbow and just reach it a little bit higher than the right so that you feel the weight land onto the right shoulder blade. We're looking to feel the weight on the inner border of the shoulder blade, so the space that's closer towards the spine. And then we'll lift those hips again. Keep the weight centered there so that left elbow still reaching higher than the right, and take a little rock. Go up and down, feeling that foam roller massaging into the place right on the inner border of your right shoulder blade. And do that just a couple more times. You really only need about 30 to 60 seconds here to create some nice relief. And then we'll slow that down, put the hips on the ground, and start to move yourself over to the right, and I'm just going to turn around so that I'm facing you. And what we're looking for as we go over to this right side is not to land all the way on the right side body, but more towards the outer portion of the shoulder blade. So if you touch your shoulder blade there, you can even move your arm around so you can feel the shoulder blade move. You're going to land on that outer portion, so it's kind of behind the outer edge of the armpit. So you're about 45-ish degrees towards the floor. You can leave your head in your hands here, and we're going to keep the hips down, and it's kind of like a little inchworm action. Imagine like you're shortening the right side of the waist and then lengthening it. For most people, this area is going to feel pretty tender, so lifting the hips might feel like too much. If it's feeling good, you want to lift the hips and make a bigger movement here, you're welcome to, but it's not necessary. Get that inner border, just again, about 30 to 60 seconds. You might scoot yourself up or down to be able to reach different areas. This one is always very tender in my body. You might find an area, take a breath, let the head kind of lean into the hands. Good, and then from here, we're gonna keep moving to the right, so the hips will shift back, and you'll be on that right side body. This is a great place to reach around if your hip feels a little tender on the wood floor. Slide a blanket underneath. Feel that foam roller land right underneath the right side of the rib cage, and kind of underneath that right armpit as well. Head rests in the hand. From here, just take a little lean back. You might feel that tender area we were just kind of working on. And take a little lean forward, and you might feel some tenderness on the side of the ribs. Good, rock forward and back a couple times. And then we're going to land with the weight leaning back. Let the head rest in the hand. Maybe you close those eyes here, take a couple breaths. If it feels helpful, you can find some movement here, just rocking a little bit forward and back, but staying towards that back portion of the shoulder blade, or back side of the rib cage. If you found those little rocks, stay still, take a breath. And then lean yourself so you're stacked more straight forward, so you're kind of right in the middle, right on the side of the ribs there. Again, feel how that sensation lands for you. If you want to stay still, let the head rest heavy in the hands. Stay just the way you are. Or if you want to explore a little bit of movement here, rock a little bit forward and a little bit back. Keep yourself kind of right on the middle of that rib cage there, so just on that side body. And those movements are really small, just exploring that little bit of rocking. Good, and then slow that down again, take a breath. Winnie wants her walk. That's why she's giving me so much attention. And then from here, we're gonna just move into that pec again, or like I said before. So turn that chest down and make sure that you've got enough of the foam roller in front of you that you can lean it into the chest. If you're a woman, you have breast tissue here, just move it up so it's not landing right in that breast tissue, and instead it's right in the front of the chest. And then angle yourself about 45 degrees towards the floor. I like to make a fist and stack my hand on top, allowing my head to rest on the hand there. You might make 2 flat palms, let the head rest there. If you've got a sweatshirt or a block or a second blanket, you can pad the head here, give it some support, but just make sure it's comfortable. Feel a little bit of that pressure of the foam roller into the pecs, and we don't need to find any movement here. Just give yourself about 2 more deep breaths. Good, and then pick your head up. Use those hands to support you to come all the way up to your seat. You might slide off of that blanket there. And just take a moment to pause. Feel the difference between the 2 sides. Maybe notice the way that the breath fills into the 2 sides of the rib cage. And explore some movement in the arms here. Notice side to side if there's any differences, maybe a sense of coherency in the movement between the 2 sides, or maybe just ease or range of motion. And feeling that kind of really quick change in the tissues, it's an opportunity to really affect change, this myofascial release. It's pretty amazing. We'll do that second side. Don't drop your phone. So we'll start again towards the upper portion of the shoulder blades, right behind the back, and we're just going to move into that left side. So situate yourself with the head supported in the hands, and that head can kind of just rest heavy there. And then point those elbows up towards the ceiling, And this time that right elbow is going to reach a little bit higher than the left. That's going to put you on the inner border of the left shoulder blade, so the portion of the shoulder blade that's closer to the spine. And then you'll lift those hips and just take a little rock, feeling that foam roller work right next to that inner border. Right elbow's reaching just a little bit higher than the left, positioning that weight to the left. Notice maybe if there's any difference in sensation between these two sides. If you're like me or right-handed, this left one might feel a little bit less intense. You might have the opposite experience. See if you can just notice without having to create too much reasoning behind it. So you're just experiencing these different sensations. And then allow those hips to come back down. Turn the hips about 45 degrees towards the left so that now the foam roller is on that inner border of the shoulder blade. So you're not quite on the armpit yet, you're just behind it. And then I like to keep my hips down for this one. You're welcome to lift them up, but I think of like lengthening the side of the waist, the left side, and then shortening. It's kind of like an inchworm to move that foam roller up and down that outer border of the shoulder blade now. You can of course position those hips so maybe you scoot your hips up, and as you lengthen you'll move down the shoulder blade. And then when you feel like you've done some good work there, maybe you pause and take a breath. We'll move all the way onto that left side body. So again, if your hips are tender on the wood floor, you might just slide that blanket underneath. The knees point to the left. The foam roller comes underneath the left side of the ribcage and a little bit underneath the armpit there. Elbow meets the mat and the head rests in the hands. This right hand can just be there for balance. And we're going to take a little rock backwards, feel the back side of the shoulder, and then a little rock forwards, maybe feel it move into the rib cage, the chest a bit. Pause with the weight leaning back. Optional to stay still, breathe, or just find little rocks. Those rocks will keep you towards the back side of the shoulder there. So you're not rocking all the way forward and back, just little rocks on that back portion. And then pause and take a breath. Bring it straight forward so you're right on the side of the ribcage there. And again, you might stay still, or you might find little rocks forward and back. And again, you're just finding that movement over the side portion now. Slow that down, take a breath. And from here, coming into the pecs. So we'll take the left forearm down. We'll turn the chest about 45 degrees towards the floor. Again, if you've got some breast tissue, you might want to move that roller up so that it goes right into the pecs above that tissue. Feel the body about 45 degrees pointing towards the floor, and then support the head however it makes sense for you. Maybe it's two hands stacked, maybe you make a fist. Maybe you've got a sweatshirt or an extra blanket you can wedge underneath your head there. But feel that there's some pressure of the foam roller right in the pecs, the front of the chest. You might feel it kind of on that front corner of the armpit as well. And give yourself a couple deep breaths here. And then finish that last round of breath.
What are you doing? What are you doing? And come all the way up to your seat.
And then take that moment again to notice. Find a comfortable seat, maybe the hands rest on the legs. Feeling again the breath move through the sides of the ribs. Hopefully feeling a little bit more balanced as you come through this second side. But noticing there might still be some slight differences, and that's okay. Maybe that means that you want to go back to another side, or maybe you just take it as information. Feel free to move those arms around, and you can take this foam roller, or this foam myofascial release, exercise as just an opportunity to refresh and bring some circulation back into the upper back and the chest, or you might use it before or after a practice or a workout. It's a great thing to incorporate into your routine, however you choose to do that. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.